Ever feel like intelligence is this fixed thing? Like you're
Mm,
either born with a smart brain or you're not.
yeah.
What if I told you we could actually train our brains to be sharper, more adaptable, more well-intelligent?
Okay.
Today, we're tossing out the old IQ rulebook and exploring practical ways you can boost your cognitive abilities.
It's fascinating how often intelligence is reduced to just test scores and academic achievements.
Right, like being able to recite pi to the 100th decimal somehow means you can navigate the real world.
Exactly.
Hmm.
The source material we're diving into today
Mhm.
defines intelligence in a much more expansive and I think useful way.
Okay,
It's about effectively understanding and responding to the world around us.
so it's like problem solving.
Yeah, whether that means analyzing information, coming up with creative solutions, or even just understanding our own emotions and how they impact our decisions.
Okay, so it's less about being a walking encyclopedia and more about being adaptable and insightful, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about having a versatile mental toolkit.
So how do we go about building this mental toolkit? Our sources point to lifelong learning as the ultimate brain workout.
Right.
I love that instead of intelligence being this finite thing, it's something we can actively cultivate throughout our lives.
It really is empowering when you think about it.
Absolutely. And the first method our sources highlight is something I know you're a huge proponent of reading,
Of course.
but we're not just talking about skimming headlines here. It's about actively engaging with a diverse range of texts.
And it's that diversity that's key. The more varied your reading diet, the more you're exposed to different writing styles, new vocabulary, and most importantly, different ways of thinking.
So it's not just about absorbing information, it's about expanding our capacity for understanding different perspectives and approaches to problem solving.
Precisely. Each book, each article, it's like adding a new lens through which we can view the world.
I love that analogy. And
Yeah.
for those who want to go beyond the page, we have an incredible opportunity in this day and age: online learning. I mean, platforms like Coursera and Khan Academy offer expert-level courses on practically any topic imaginable.
The access we have now is remarkable. Want to learn astrophysics from a leading researcher?
Yeah,
No problem. Interested in ancient Roman history?
it's all there.
There's a course for that. It's an incredible time to be curious about, well, anything.
It really is. It's like having a universe of knowledge at our fingertips available 24/7. But the learning journey doesn't stop there, does it?
It doesn't stop there.
Our sources also emphasize the importance of engaging in thoughtful discussions.
And I want to be clear, this isn't about arguing just for the sake of it or trying to win every debate.
Right.
It's about actively listening to different viewpoints and learning how to articulate your own ideas in a clear and compelling way.
So it's less about being right and more about being open to having your perspective challenged and refined through dialogue.
Exactly. When we engage in respectful discourse, we're forced to think critically about our own assumptions and biases.
It's like that saying, iron sharpens iron. When we engage with different perspectives, we sharpen our own thinking.
Absolutely. And that ties directly into the next essential element of enhanced intelligence: critical thinking.
Our sources describe it as having a built-in BS detector, which, let's be honest, is more important than ever in today's world.
It's not just about being skeptical of everything we hear.
Yeah.
It's about developing a rigorous process for evaluating information and forming our own conclusions.
And our sources break down critical thinking into three key components. The first one they highlight is asking the right questions.
Which might seem counterintuitive, right?
Yeah, you'd think it'd be about having the answers.
We often think of intelligence as having all the answers. But in reality, knowing which questions to ask often reveals far more than the answers themselves.
It's about cultivating a sense of curiosity and approaching information with a critical but open mind.
Exactly. It's about not accepting things at face value and digging deeper to understand the underlying assumptions, motivations, and evidence.
The second component our sources emphasize is evaluating evidence. In the age of social media and information overload, this feels particularly crucial.
Absolutely. We're bombarded with information from all sides, and it's easy to get swayed by emotional appeals or flashy headlines.
So true.
Critical thinkers take the time to consider the source of the information, look for supporting data, and be mindful of potential biases that might be coloring the presentation.
It's like being your own fact checker and editor.
Precisely. And that leads us to the third component: reflecting on our own thinking.
This one can be tough because it requires a willingness to be honest with ourselves about our own biases.
It's easy to surround ourselves with information that confirms what we already believe, But critical thinking requires us to step outside of our echo chambers and ask ourselves tough questions.
Like, am I truly open to changing my mind?
Exactly. Or am I letting my emotions cloud my judgment?
Mm-hmm.
It's about developing that inner observer who can monitor our thought processes and identify areas where we might be falling prey to bias or faulty logic.
So we've talked about analytical intelligence, but our sources also delve into a facet of intelligence that's often overlooked: emotional intelligence, or EQ.
Which I would argue is just as important as cognitive intelligence when it comes to navigating the complexities of life.
Totally. You can be the most brilliant mind in the room, but if you can't understand or manage your own emotions or empathize with others, you're going to hit some serious roadblocks
And we see this all the time, don't we?
all the time.
People who excel in their fields but struggle in their personal relationships, or who let their emotions get the best of them in high-pressure situations.
Our sources outline three key elements of emotional intelligence. The first one is self-awareness.
Which is all about understanding our own emotional landscape,
Yeah.
our triggers, our patterns, how our feelings influence our behaviors.
Yeah.
It's about developing that internal mirror that allows us to see ourselves more clearly.
So before we can understand others, we need to understand ourselves.
Precisely. And that understanding lays the groundwork for the second element, empathy.
And empathy isn't just about being nice,
Sure.
right? It's about actively trying to see the world through someone else's eyes, even if their perspective is vastly different from our own.
Exactly. It's about listening to understand, not just to respond. It's about recognizing that everyone has their own unique experiences and perspectives that shape how they see the world.
Which can be challenging, especially when we encounter viewpoints that clash with our own.
Absolutely. But that's where the third element of emotional intelligence comes in,
Yeah.
managing our emotions.
So it's not about suppressing our emotions or pretending we don't feel them.
Right.
What about learning to process them in a healthy and constructive way?
Precisely. Our sources suggest some practical tools for this,
Like what?
like practicing mindfulness, engaging in regular physical activity, or even just taking a few moments to pause and breathe deeply before reacting to a stressful situation.
It's about building that space between feeling and reacting, which allows us to respond with intention rather than just getting swept away by our emotions.
It's like building a stronger emotional immune system. We're all going to encounter challenges and frustrations in life. But by developing our emotional intelligence, we can navigate those situations with more grace, resilience, and understanding.
You know, it's interesting how all these different facets of intelligence, analytical thinking, lifelong learning, critical thinking, emotional intelligence, they all seem connected, don't they?
Absolutely. They work synergistically. It's like building a well-rounded athlete. You wouldn't just focus on strength training or cardio, you develop all aspects of your physicality for optimal performance. Intelligence is similar. It thrives on balance and integration.
It's about cultivating a mind that's not only sharp and analytical, but also adaptable, empathetic, and resilient. And the best part is it's a journey we can all embark on no matter where we are in life.
I love that. It's a very empowering message.
It really is. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm curious to think about, what's one area of intelligence that really resonated with you today and how you can start applying some of these insights today. Maybe it's picking up a book on a topic you've always been curious about, or making a conscious effort to listen more deeply in your next conversation. Whatever it is, remember that intelligence, like any skill, is cultivated through practice and a commitment to continuous growth. Keep those wheels turning, and until next time, happy learning.